If you work in tech, management, or any modern office job, you probably know a specific type of exhaustion. You work 10 hours a day, you answer 50 emails, you sit in 5 meetings, but at the end of the day, you close your laptop, look around the room, and everything looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. That's what I felt, and besides getting an income and being exhausted, I had no physical proof that I actually did anything. I call this the abstract trap. Now, I didn't invent this feeling. Karl Marx actually wrote about this over 150 years ago. He called it alienation. In the industrial age, he argued that when a worker is separated from the object they produce, they don't feel fulfilled. So when you pull a lever in a factory but never see the final car that directly results from your efforts, you lose a piece of your humanity. You feel empty. In the modern world, technology has advanced tremendously, but all that it's done is make the feeling worse. We still are encountering alienation as what Karl Marx described. We are still trading our time for completely abstract outcomes, and some might argue that it's even worse with software. You can't touch a customer support ticket, you can't touch a SaaS. Matthew Crawford was a PhD philosopher who actually quit his office job to become a motorcycle mechanic. He wrote a great book about this called Shop Class as Soulcraft. He argues that humans have a primal need to see a direct link between effort and artifact. When you chop wood, you see and touch a pile of logs. When you write code, you see nothing tangible. I spent decades in this abstract trap. Even after building a company to $30 million and managing 35,000 clients, everything was all in the cloud. It was still invisible and intangible. That's why I bought this printer. Not just for toys, but to close that loop. Now let me show you what closing the loop actually looks like. I like using my iPhone in standby mode right here on my desk. It turns the phone into a useful dashboard for clocks and widgets, and I can charge it as well at the same time. So what's the problem? The problem is most chargers on sale right now are either vertical stands, so standby mode doesn't really work, or they are flat bits and you can't see the screen at all, or there are horizontal stands but they are very finicky positions, or they need you to have your phone to be caseless. I couldn't find a dual charger that held my watch and my phone in the exact orientation that I wanted with the case that I'm using. Also, I didn't just want any third-party dock. I wanted the dock to specifically use Apple original chargers because I found them to be charging faster than any third-party chargers. In the past, I would just settle for a product that I didn't really like. Instead, I went to take my calipers, measured my Apple Watch chargers for my phone and for my watch, and designed this case in Fusion 360. It took me maybe 4 hours for the designing and the test printing without the machine printing time. But look at this. I just have to snap the charger in and it's a perfect fit. This didn't exist in the world yesterday. Now it exists on my desk. The feeling of bending the physical world to fit your specific needs is the antidote to the abstract trap. But why 3D printing? Why not woodworking or pottery? Because 3D printing is a physical hobby that also rewards my system brain. In order to 3D print, the 3D printer actually needs to have a 3D model, which is created using 3D modeling software such as Blender or Fusion 360. Unlike creating figurines or art, I realized I like the functional aspect of Fusion 360 because it's all based in parametric design. You set rules, you set constraints. You say, this hole must always be exactly 5 millimeters from the edge. If you change the size of the object, the hole automatically moves and stays in perfect alignment. I don't know if you guys would appreciate this, but this is parametric design in Fusion 360. I think it's beautiful. Look at how easy it is to change stuff. So I have a block here and I'm doing like a 360 rotation of the block. You can see that there's a hole here and it's parametrically designed. If I want to change anything with this block, like for example, maybe I don't want the hole to be here, I can just change the dimensions. Like for example, it's 5 mm away from the edge, I can change it to 15. You know, I click finish sketch and it's immediately changed. So the system's brain that I have loves this. It's so easy to change the design and I don't need to have the artistic flair. I don't need to be a creative person. I don't need to be a designer. I just need to know logic. I just need to know dimensions and I can basically get this done. This hooked me immediately. It reminded me of when I was designing websites as a teenager. Back then, I loved the instant feedback loop. You change the CSS, the HTML, the layout completely changes and snaps into place. Fusion 360 gives me the same feeling, but for physical objects. I don't need or have the artistic flair of an illustrator. I don't need steady hands to chisel wood. I just need logic. The beauty of software is that I can iterate 10 times in the software before I ever use a gram of plastic. It's digital engineering for people who aren't engineers. And for a guy who spent 15 years building systems, this feels like home. Now, the final piece of the puzzle is the specific tool that I use. I don't like fighting with my tools. I want the result, not the struggle. A lot of people told me, get an Ender 3, tinker with it. No. I bought a Bambu Lab instead. Why? Because I practice strategic laziness. 3D printing used to be a very expensive and tedious process. You have so many problems just getting the 3D printer to work well. You would spend half or even 80% of the time calibrating and getting things right before even actually starting on the print itself. So, call me a Bambu Lab fanboy, but Bambu Lab has fixed that problem. It's relatively affordable, and most importantly, it just works right out of the box. It was a very easy process to open the box, set up the printer according to the manual, and when I started my first print, everything came out flawlessly. I don't like or want to spend my Saturdays leveling a print bed or just troubleshooting why a print didn't work. I want to create a design, hit print, and go do other things. Bambu Lab has created printers that create 3D prints that just work. My 3D printer lets me focus on the creation, not the calibration, and it's the Apple approach, where things simply just work. So I'm using this channel to document how I learn new systems, whether it's 3D printing or calisthenics or just hacking productivity. I want to explore making ideas real and tangible. And here's my challenge to you, and that's to make something real this week. Break out of the abstract trap. It's not going to be easy, nor will it feel like you're going to be the most productive, but I bet that you're going to find it fulfilling. If you want to see a former tech CEO try to figure out the physical world, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.